Hello everyone, welcome to a new lecture. In this video we are going to talk about mountains. So what is a mountain? I'll be very surprised if you haven't seen a mountain, but the official definition of a mountain is an elevated peak higher than a hill. As you can see in this picture, this is a very beautiful picture of a mountain. They are these elevated peak structures that are higher than a hill. The term for the processes that collectively produce mountains or mountain belts is called orogeny. So all the processes that go into making a mountain belt is called an orogeny. Okay, so mountains are elevated peak and they are higher than hills, and the processes that go into making mountains is called orogenies. So how many types of mountains do we have, or how many processes that go into making a mountain belt? Well, we have two types. We have fault block mountains that are created in tensional tectonic settings, and we have collisional mountain belts that are created in collision type tectonic settings. And the collisional mountain belts are Cordilleran type and Alpine-type. So let's start with the last one, collisional mountain belts. So what are collisional mountain belts? Well, collisional mountain belts result from collision of crustal bodies to create a mountain or mountains since they are too buoyant to subduct. Since the two bodies are too buoyant to subduct, they will collide and they will create mountains. An analogy would be if you have two pieces of rock and you collide them, they will fold and they will rise against each other and they will create kind of mountain shape like in a small scale. This is how collisional mountain belts are made. When you have two bodies of crust colliding, they will create mountains. They will collide, they will not subduct since they are too buoyant to do that. They will collide and they will create collisional mountain belts. We have two types of collisional mountain belts. We have Cordilleran type and we have Alpine type. The first one, Cordilleran type, is associated with Pacific-like oceans since the seafloor spreading is balanced by subduction and crustal fragments move and collide with continental margin, creating collisional mountains. So, as you know by now, there are crustal fragments. Either they are a result of hot spots or they are small islands. When due to seafloor spreading, when these small fragments are moved and they are collided with a continent, they will create a mountain belt since the fragment is too buoyant to be subducted. So the way it works, imagine this is a continent and this is a fragment. They get closer to each other and the driving force is seafloor spreading, and when they hit, the fragment is too buoyant to be subducted, therefore they will collide and they will create a mountain belt. This is a very simplified version of Cordilleran type, but this is how it basically works. You have a fragment and it collides with a continent. Okay, so how do we know this? Well, an example of Cordilleran mountain type will be the North American Cordillera. How do we know this is a caldera? Well, some of the rocks in the mountain belts of Alaska and British Columbia contain fossils that indicate the strata that contains these fossils were once close to the equator. So these strata were once closer to the equator, so thousands of miles away from the mountain belts that are in British Columbia and Alaska, but due to seafloor spreading, these fragments that contains these fossils moved and collided with continent margin near Alaska and British Columbia, creating the North American Cordillera. We have small fragments colliding with big continents. Okay, so the second type of collisional mountain belts is Alpine type. It's named after the Alps, and this type of mountain occurs when two continental masses collide. So instead of having a fragment and a continental mass, we have two continental masses colliding. The zone where two continents are welded together is called a sutura. So you have one continental mass, another continental mass, they get closer and they create an Alpine type collisional mountain belt. They are a result of two continental masses colliding and being welded in a region that is called sutura. This is Alpine type or collisional type mountain belts. A very interesting feature of Alpine type mountains is fold and thrust belts. The reason since we have compressional force that drives the two continents to collide, the result is either the rocks will break to create thrusts, and we'll talk about thrust faults in later chapters, or if the rock is elastic enough to not break, actually they will fold. If we have a straight strata and you push it from both sides, you will create a shape like this, a wavy shape, a fold with D. So a very notable feature of Alpine type mountains is folds and thrust belts. We will talk about both folds and thrusts in later chapters. An example of Alpine type mountains is the Himalayas, the Alps, and the Appalachian. All these are a result of compressional force that drives two continental mass to collide and creates these mountain belts. Okay, so what is the other type of mountain belts? What is the type that is not due to collision, that is not due to compression, but actually it is due to tension, meaning plates getting away from each other? Will any mountains be created due to tensional force? Well, actually yes, even though it's contrary to intuition. And a type of mountain that is created in tensional tectonic settings is called a fault block mountain. So what's a fault block mountain? Well, fault block mountains are mountains built in tensional tectonic settings, such as in continental rifting. So when you have plates getting away from each other, or if you have magma underneath, for example, a plate, and it drives the plate to get away from each other, it will create fault block mountains. So how does this one work? Well, tensional tectonics stretches, thins, and breaks the lithosphere into large crustal tilted blocks with one edge rising and the other one dropping. So when you have tensional stress that thins, stretches, and breaks the lithosphere, it will break them into large tilted blocks. One of the edge of the blocks will rise and the other one will drop, creating mountains. So imagine this is the lithosphere. When you have tensional force, they will get away from each other and the lithosphere will turn into blocks. One side of the block will rise and the other one will drop. As you can see, this side has dropped and this side has rose to create a mountain. This is how tensional tectonics create mountains, and it will create fault block mountains. An example of fault block mountains would be the Basin and Range province located between the Sierra Nevada and Rocky Mountains, and is one of the Earth's largest regions of fault block mountains that is due to tensional tectonic settings, that is due to plate being thinned and stretched rather being collided and compressed. And with this, we come to the end of our lecture. To recap,